All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. We are going to pick up where we left off last stream, although I've got some things to review before we get to that. But we're going to continue on with the integration of our Bespoke renderer into our application code, which is pretty much done at this point, actually. Before we go any further, though, I do just want to take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, starting with our elite partner, Javier Lazaron, followed by our partners, Gerbolis Inc. and Matt Osgard. Those are the highest tiers of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, followed by the list of supporters you see here on the screen. They are a list of the other combinations of tiers of support over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated, and it helps me offset the cost of running this channel, things like hosting fees, software licenses, things of that nature. And of course, it's going to help offset the cost of actually developing the game too. So that is very much appreciated. I would also be in error if I did not give a big thank you to you guys, the viewers, whether you're joining us here live on the YouTube side or on the Twitch side. We do simulcast to both. Or if you are watching the VOD after the fact. Without you guys, none of this would be possible. So I appreciate you guys a lot. Apotham, good to see you. Spiro, not first. Good to see you too. Yeah, welcome, guys. I hope all is well. All right. So I just want to quickly touch on kind of where we left off in the last stream, as opposed to where we are now. And so last time we were sort of gathering up all of our data that we are going to need to actually pass over to the renderer in order to make all of the individual frames happen. So I've done that. The code is relatively complete, but it's not without its bugs, right? So I'm in the middle of troubleshooting one of those bugs right now. I have a feeling it's probably the last one, or at least close to the last one. And so we'll get into what that's all about in a minute. The other thing I do want to point out, and I'm not quite ready to go public with this yet, but I did actually start building out a wiki for the game, right? Because I was just realizing that sort of the long documentation, or the long document that we had wasn't really going to cut it. It wasn't really navigable and easily updatable and things like that. So I started creating a wiki at our new shiny shadowsofillumina.com domain that I went ahead and purchased. And so we actually have a few pages in here so far. I'm obviously going to continue working on building this out. But I've got, I think, almost everything in terms of setting that was in that initial document in here. So if you click into the world itself, you have Illumina here, and then you have a listing of continents and oceans. And if you click into each one of those, you've actually got a detailed page in here with all of the different zones, some of the capital cities, and then you can click into the individual zones themselves and get a little bit more information there. Obviously, this is pretty bare bones at the moment. We're going to expand this out quite a lot. But that's just kind of the start, right? So all these red links are still links I have to fill in, but at least they're recorded, right? The other thing that's in here is I also started kind of writing a history of the world itself, and this is where a lot of that lore that we've discussed actually exists. So I've split this up into sort of different periods of time with just a blurb in the very beginning here as far as super far back history goes as far as the lore goes. And then, we've got information here about the wars that happened and all of that different stuff. So, we've got a number of different things in here that are available to sort of read through. So this is private right now. You can't actually view any of this stuff unless you have a login. That's by design, just while I sort of lock this down. But eventually this will be opened up so that you guys can look at that. But I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit of a preview of one of the other things I'm working on offline. All right. Got a chance to work with some C++ that hasn't been updated since 1993. It doesn't even feel like it's the same language as nowadays. Yeah, that would be true. I don't think, I'm trying to think if I've ever used C++ earlier than 03. PHP mentioned, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, this is PHP powered technically, so there's that, but yeah. Anyway, so a couple of other things I suppose I should bring up. So I'm going to go ahead and debug this real quick just so you guys can actually see where this is at. So we're going to go ahead and run this real fast. Right, so we do have this up and running with the basic UI layer here. Things are showing up as they're kind of supposed to. The other thing that I did, is you'll see this additional line here. It says falloc_p. So this is the frame allocator pressure, is what I'm calling this. And basically it gives me an idea of how loaded down the frame allocator was, because I really had no clue. And so this keeps sort of track of that, right? So you can see here just with, just basic things that we have, just the basic UI. Our frame allocator is pretty small, right? It's under 2K. Now, obviously, if I load a scene, that jumps up quite a bit, right? I'm actually going to kill the volume on my desktop. So you can see here that jumps up to, 453K. Right. And so there's lots going on there. Part of that is me deliberately wasting memory while trying things. So obviously I'll tighten that up a little bit, but we have 128 megs to work with. So 450K out of that isn't really so bad. Right. That's 0. Well, I guess that's actually, did I? Yeah, that's not even a full percent, right? So that's that. And then also you'll note here that we do have meshes in our debug shapes, and our water plane and our skybox are all rendering. There is something that's foobar with this particular material, but I think that's actually a material issue. However, you'll notice that they're rendering exactly at 0, 0, 0, right? Which is not, it's not how we actually have those objects set up, right? This tree is really supposed to be back here, like in the distance, and this block is supposed to move around and is scaled differently. The reason for that is because that's part of the troubleshooting stuff that I'm in the middle of. So essentially what's happening is in our application prepare frame, we process a whole bunch of data for the standard view, right, which is sort of the regular render pass that we have for all of our geometry, right? And actually, I can actually remove this hack because I know it's not that one that's causing the issue. So essentially, as we talked about in the previous stream, we kind of go through, we gather up a whole bunch of data. We jam it into these arrays. I have moved some of this stuff around just trying to see if I could figure out what the issue was. And it looks like all of these things work correctly. So the index and count and offset, the vertex count and offset are fine. The winding inverted seems to also be fine, and the material instance also seems to be correct. However, the model matrix for some reason is getting completely foobarred, and I cannot figure out why. So I'm hoping, in the middle of this stream, we'll kind of figure out what's going on there. The only reason that you're able to actually see it is because here, instead of using GeoModel, let me make sure I'm not behind my head there. Yep. So here, instead of using GeoModel, I just hard-coded that to Mat4 identity. And this is within the renderer itself, right? So when I do this, it works, but if I undo that and go back to GeoModel, which is what we would have put in here, it's wrong. So somewhere along the way, something's clobbering our memory, right? So we're gonna have to kind of go through the code and make sure, A, that it's not happening on this side, and if it is, fix it. Or B, maybe there's something going on within here that's causing the problem. Casey's talk about OOPS history in the Better Software Conference was quite enlightening. It's worthy of watching, listening. You know, Magetz, I've actually made it like a third through that so far. I just haven't gotten all the way through it. But yeah, so far it's pretty good. It's interesting for sure. Yeah, it's really an interesting talk. I just have to finish it. But yeah. How's it going, by the way? Hope you're doing well. James over on YouTube, what's happening, man? Good to see you, buddy. Hope all is well. Yeah, I'm just in the middle of debugging some game code here. All right. So I suspect, like I said, we've got some sort of heap corruption going on here somewhere. So I think what I'm going to probably do is just kind of take a look, probably from the start of the forward pass. I suspect also that the shadow pass is probably also not getting what it needs, because I'm not seeing any shadows rendered. So there is that too. In addition, let me fix that stupid material issue real quick. So let me go in here, and it should be... Oh, I guess it must have gotten checked in already. Cool. All right. I think I know which one that is. That's going to be in here under materials, and then I think it is actually this one. Should be, has transparency, should be true. So that should at least fix that problem. I guess let me load it up just so that I can verify that that's what that is. Oh, you know what? That's not going to work because I disabled my hack. Let's put that back in. And move that way over and run. Okay, yeah. That's fixed now. So now we've got our transparency back. So now we just need to adjust our logic that's feeding in our model matrices, because those are wrong. I've already verified that the view and projection are correct, simply by the fact that when I put a identity matrix here, we actually see the models, right, as expected. Even when I switch rendering modes, right? Everything here shows up as expected, even in wireframe, right? So all of that works, which tells me it is indeed the model matrix that is getting clobbered, right? So to show you what's happening, I'm going to remove this hack, right? And I'm just going to do a no check-in on this guy real quick. MDS Ubuntu, thank you for the watch streak, 7-stream watch streak. I appreciate that. How's it going? Good to see you. He defined the ECS quite clearly in his talk. Basically, entity system is what they used at Looking Glass Studios. Yeah, so he kind of he touched on that a little bit, but then he kind of went down the OOP rabbit hole, and I suspect he's going to come back up later in that talk to discuss the rest of it. But like I said, I've only watched like a third of it. Okay. Did I build this? All right. So if we run now, you will note that those meshes are not showing up, right? Even if we change to our debug camera, we do not have any of those meshes loading. They're not like under the water plane. They're not anywhere, right? And so that is essentially what we're getting, right? We're just getting garbage data for the model matrix, right? And I've verified this in RenderDoc. So it's just a matter of finding out, where exactly that memory is getting clobbered. So one thing that we could do is in here where we are adding to the standard geometry count, right? I could go ahead and just put a breakpoint here. And actually, I'm going to put a breakpoint here, right? After we make this copy, right? So let's go ahead and run this, right? And I'm actually going to skip forward a few frames, actually. And now we'll go ahead and do it. Okay, just to make sure that everything's loaded, right? So we have our new data. And if we examine the model matrix, we can see here that we've got, a valid, we've got what looks to be a valid matrix anyways. So yeah, we've got a valid position here. We've got valid scale here, here, and here, right? So I think at this point it is valid, right? So what essentially happens here is we have to determine if we've had a material change, right? So this is going to be actually the first geometry in the list. So we don't have a current material change, which means that we don't have a current material, which means we have a material change, right? And so what we do here is we go ahead and we set up a new material render data. And just as a refresher here, that just has the base material, geometry count, and geometries in it, right? And for now, we're actually using a D array here, but eventually in the future, we're probably not going to do that. So, wow, I guess my key bindings I'm missing. Hold on. I did just reset up my entire workstation here, so there are going to be things that are wrong. Let's see. Actually, it's going to be key bindings. JSON. There we go. Put those in there. And then close that, close that. Now I can actually go back and forth. Okay. Okay, so we go ahead and create a new material definition. This is, again, to group geometries by material. And then we check that material to say, hey, is it a transparent material or not? Because that changes what list it goes into. And again, this is eventually going to be done by the scene. This whole bit right here. Once we redo the scene, but for now we have to kind of do it here until we actually refactor how the scene works. So we take the length of that D array, right? And then we push the new matrix or new material rather definition into that array. At that point, we then say current material at index of count is there, right? And then down here, I was just testing instead of using the current material pointer and then getting geometries there to push into this guy, but that doesn't seem to have made any difference, right? So this was just sort of some experimental code. I'll probably wind up rolling that back once I confirm that it does work the other way. And so I don't see anything here that indicates to me that I've got like a wrong type or that I'm clobbering memory somewhere here. Seeing E, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well over there on the YouTube side. By the way, I wanted to write a small Vulkan renderer, haha, small. But the default Microsoft C++ extension can't seemingly handle the Vulkan header. So I switched to the Clang D extension. Experience improved quite a bit and is butter smooth. Really? I can't handle, like, you mean like if I go here and I just open up this guy? I don't know. It's always handled it just fine for me. Weird. Weird. Writing it in C just for trying out techniques before adding them to my engine. Oh, yeah, you're talking. I assumed you were talking about the VS extension. Yeah. Struggled to provide suggestions. Interesting. I mean, I haven't written code in this guy for quite a while, right? But yeah, I'm using Clang D for NeoVim, and it works just fine. Haven't had an issue there. So yeah, maybe it's the same thing here. I don't know. Okay. So I guess let me go back to here and just kind of inspect what's going on here. So after we push this, right, we should have, so this is not a transparent material. So we push that in there. We say the current material is here. Let's get a debug. And I'm actually going to say, I want to grab current material geometries, right? And I probably need to do, let's just treat this as a array of, I don't know, 10. So the first one here is all zeroed out because we haven't pushed anything to it, right? Which is fine. That all makes sense. So material instance, model, data, this should all be 0, and it is, right? Let me expand this a little bit. So when we go here and we push into this array here, interesting. So it's pushed into, it updated these, but it did not update the handle index of the material instance, which should have definitely happened. Oh wait, are these 0? They might actually be 0. No, they're not. So it didn't do that either. It only did these 4 then. I see the problem. I see the problem. Do you guys see it? Dingus-oriented programming is a frickin' issue. All right, line 1015. And I think I know exactly why this happened, and I'm going to fix something in code to correct this. So geometries is a Illumina geometry render data structure, array of structures. But we have Illumina material render data here, not geometry render data, right? So I'm actually going to undo this for a second because I actually want to go here to DArray, and I actually want to update this a little bit to match what DArray create does up here. And I'm actually think I'm going to modify all of these to do this. Because what this does up here is I changed this a while ago to catch some of this stuff at compile time, where it automatically casts the void pointer that is returned by darray create to the appropriate type pointer, right? So what I really want is, I really want to do that. Also for reserve, and also for reserve with allocator. Okay. Let me see, is there any other of these that makes sense to do that? Duplicate already does it, okay. Okay. All right, so let's rebuild. That's basically going to trigger a rebuild of almost the entire code base. It'll be interesting to see how many errors it throws. Yeah, we've got a few of them in there. Awesome. All right, so Illumina main looks like most of it, right? So see, now we actually get an error here, or a warning rather. So we would have caught this if I had that in place. So that's actually a really good fix to have. Because now we'll catch that stuff ahead of time. Looks like we did it again here, right? So this should be geometry, right? And I suspect we have one more. Yep. Okay. How awesome would it be if that actually fixed the issue? All right, let's run. Ha! Fix the issue. Awesome. So we have our debug shapes back at the correct scale, using the correct model matrix, and our tree is even way back here like it belongs. Also, our shadows are casting correctly. Well, at least some of them. These aren't casting shadows for some reason. Or maybe they are and we just can't see it. But I don't think so. So here it's fairly obvious. Alright, so those aren't casting shadows for some reason. Not 100% sure of why that is. But I'm not going to worry about that just yet, because there's a couple of other things that I see that aren't quite right. But this is a huge step in the right direction, right? So if I switch back to the other camera, we can actually see that we can actually move our quote-unquote player around. And we are back to where we were before. I should be able to go over here and teleport to the Dingus test zone. And that works as expected too. Yeah, and the shadow projections are hitting the cube, as we would expect. So that is awesome. Then I believe over here, this is just an audio, yep, an audio thing playing there, which you guys can't hear. But, all right. So, huge movement forward there. We have successfully gotten our new renderer in place and working, which is awesome. So, I guess the next thing to do, first I'm actually going to check in what I have, obviously, so that I don't lose it, right? So, let's see. We'll do get status. Actually, I should probably do the Kohi submodule first. Can't type. All right. Okay. Apparently we were on some weird detached head branch. which I have a feeling is release 11, 0.11 anyway. So what I'm going to do is stash, and then do that, and then git stash pop. Right, okay. Let's just do a diff on this real quick, just to kind of get an idea of what we've done. Right. I must not have... I guess I must not have diff pointing to vim. All right, that's kind of annoying. All right, so let's see. So we've got our changes to darray. Also, our frame allocator for the frame allocator pressure metric that we have. I just exposed a couple of functions there to get the total space in allocated. So that I could, grab some statistics off of that and then pointed them to the internal engine frame allocator, which is just our linear allocator. So that's what that is. Here is the implementation of those. So if we have an engine states, we use the internal frame allocator total size. We return that. If we don't, then we use 0. Same as for allocated, right? And then fixed a bug here. So in our linear allocator, when we create the actual frame allocator size, we had a bug where we weren't truly reading the frame allocator size from our text configuration. We were kind of clobbering it in the application. So that was fixed, and the size that is provided in the application config is actually in megabytes, right? So we do a megabyte conversion here on that. And then here's where we set up the function pointers for total space and allocated. I also set some debug code in the renderer to check if we had 0 width or height on our scissor rectangle, because that was an issue at one point. Let's see. Oh, and then I discontinued the use of handles there. I should probably actually look at that and see if that needs to be... I should probably re-enable that and see if that works. Because I don't really want to disable that yet. And we might have actually solved the issue I was having with that. So that is in material system. Okay. I also fixed a bug in the shader source where the shader didn't have a name to it. So when we were creating the pipeline in the renderer, it was just saying, shader pipeline underscore and then null because it didn't have a name. Okay, so let's see. Let's re-enable that. Did I save that? I think I did. Yeah, okay. Let's just run this again really quickly to make sure that that doesn't break anything, because I actually want to undo that change if it's not necessary. And it is not necessary. The issues I was having with that were because of the memory issue. All right, cool. So I can actually completely do away with that. So that means, right, we only have the changes that we discussed now. Okay, so git add, we'll do everything. And we'll do various bug fixes. Nothing really fancy to write home about. So we'll go ahead and push this. Eventually. Okay. So the next thing is we have here a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to add or that we're changing, right? So the most important bits are all the bug fixes that we've already talked about in Illumina main and Illumina types and in the Illumina renderer. We've already kind of talked about all that stuff. And then everything down here in Z content is actually, I can just show it. So in here, we actually have this new folder called Z content, and I'm just keeping stuff that is kind of loosely relative to the game, or relatively related to the game rather, but not necessarily part of the game. So for example, we have the Shadows of Illumina logo, right, which I'm working on. And then there's a black version of it and a white version of it. And then of course the the GIMP XCF file. So those I'm just adding as well. So I think we can go ahead and add all of this too. So in this case, we'll say Bespoke renderer bug fixes updates. Also added initial logos to Z content. Let's see what else is in there. I think that's actually it. Good enough for now. ClangD is so good. Love that plugin so much. Yeah, ClangD is good. I can't talk about the plugin as part of VS, but as far as my use of it in Vim, it's awesome. Okay. Now, what I want to quickly do before we move on to the next thing is I kind of want to just take another really fast look through the Illumina renderer. And my no check-in thing didn't work because I forgot to set it up on this workstation because that no check-in shouldn't have gone in. So I need to remember to set that up. Let's see. I guess I could do that real quick. I could show you guys how that works. So let's see. Let's go to... let's see. I gotta remember where that is though. .files general, I think it is. So I've got a repo where I have a whole bunch of .files. And I specifically want this pre-commit one, right? So I'm gonna do from, let's see. I should probably do this on Illumina itself as well as the submodule. So I want to do cd into git, right? And then within the .git, we have, let's see, we have hooks. So we want to go in there. And then if you take a look at what is in here, they actually contain samples of all of these things. And these are all git hooks, right? And so these git hooks allow us to literally hook into different parts of the git management process, right? So if we want to do something before we push, we can actually hook a script into that. If we want to rebase or pre-commit or post update or all of these things, right? You can see all the examples they give you. If we want to attach a script to one of those, all you have to do is remove the .sample. And you have what you need. You just go into that and it's essentially just a script that runs, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to copy one that I already have in place from .files general, which is a private repo I have, but I want pre-commit. I want to copy that to pre-commit, right? And now you can see I've got that pre-commit here, right? So I didn't nuke the sample. I left that as it is, but I've got this here. So if we go into that, there's not a whole lot to it, right? So all this actually does is it does a grep on the, or it does a grep cached line number looking for no check-in against everything that we have sort of pending, right? So we do a git grep cached line number, right? No check-in. And then what it does is it shows us the entire line where the no check-in exists, gives us the line number, and then it says found check-in, and it does an exit 1, which provides, or which stops the check-in from actually happening, right? Hence, no check-in. So whenever I put no check-in, the word no check-in anywhere into my code, and this is actually hooked up, that allows me to, to prevent checking in something that shouldn't be checked in, right? So let's go ahead and quit this, and I'm going to go up 2 folders, and now that I'm actually removing this no check-in, I think it's probably going to let me do it. It should let me do that. So git commit removed no check-in, right? And you can see it allowed me to do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and push that. But then what we're going to do is, just to prove that it works, let's go back here. And I'm going to go to a different file, right? I'm going to go to Illumina main, and I'm going to go, go to the top here, and we'll put it right here in the middle of boot, right? Let's say that we've done something stupid here, and we have a hack of some sort, and we really don't want it to get checked in, right? So we do hack. This is dumb. Right, and then we can do no check-in, and I've modified my highlighter rules to actually detect this no check-in text. So I'll go ahead and save this. Go back here, add as normal, right? Do a git diff staged, right? You can see there the only thing that I've added is the no check-in, right? So then when I go to do git commit, rubbish, now it actually errors out, right? So it says Illumina main C, line 140, no check-in, found no check-in. So it tells you exactly where it is, and and that it found it. And it'll do this for each instance that it finds. So it's an incredibly valuable thing to have. If you remember to actually set it up. So, yeah. Let's see. Ronak, how's it going? Present. Stream is so early in the morning for me. Let's see. If it's early in the morning, where are you in, like Japan or something? Or close to it? How did you do that? Mind blown. So it's just a git hook is all it is. I guess I'll show it one more time, right? So if we go to in your main repo directory, right? If you go to .git and then hooks, right? You'll have all of these .sample files in here. Right? And these are all examples of how you would hook into that particular part of the Git process. I have a custom pre-commit here that doesn't have the .sample. It's just a file called pre-commit. So if I edit that, right, it's just a bash script is all it is, right? So this just does a git grep, cached line number, no check-in, right? So this basically checks all of the things that we have that we're getting ready to check in that are staged, and it looks for the text no check-in, and if it finds it, it prints it out via grep, and then it also outputs an error message here saying, hey, we found a no check-in, and then does an exit 1, which stops the commit from happening. Otherwise, if it does not meet that criteria, it just does exit 0 as normally and allows it to continue. That's all it is. Yep, it's pretty simple, but highly useful. All right. So now I can do this and that, right? And that just gets me right back to where I was before. Okay. Let's see. You like the censoring that I do? Yeah. It's a family-friendly stream, so I try to censor it, right? Let's see. First time chatter, Alucard KOD. Welcome. Yeah, but have you ever worked at Blizzard? No, I have not worked at Blizzard. Dr. Rantfox, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. No, I've never worked at Blizzard. I did apply to work there once, but no, never worked at Blizzard. I didn't work for Blizzard for 7 years and do a bunch of hacking and other stuff. No, not me. All right. Cool. Do you do home lab or networking stuff here? No, not really. This is all game dev stuff for the most part. I do have I couldn't even call it a home lab. I do have like other tested devices that I do test this runtime on. But yeah, I wouldn't call it anything as advanced as a home lab. I don't have a setup for that yet. At some point though, I probably am going to wind up having to set that up just to have a variety of devices to test on before I can release, right? So at some point I'm going to need it, but I don't have it now. Thank you guys for the follows. Appreciate that. Do you know about the Better Software Conference? Yes. I do know about it. And I'm in the middle of watching Casey's talk on that. Yeah. Would like to see you give a talk one day. I am the worst talk giver, I think, out there. I'm not good at it. I don't know what I'd even talk about, to be honest, but yeah. I mean, I suppose it'd be kind of a cool experience. Like if I was asked, I would probably come up with something, I suppose. I don't think I'd turn it down, but like, I don't know what I'd talk about. Let's see. Thank you again for the follow. Appreciate that. Honestly, watching you gives me motivation to keep working on my engine. That's awesome. That's kind of the point of this, which is awesome. Vulkan makes my brain melt, but if you can stick with it so long, it gives me hope. Yes, it makes my brain melt sometimes as well, even still. So don't feel bad. Managed to get dynamic rendering working. It's a lot better than the whole mess that is VK render pass, VK frame buffer. Yeah, I was so happy when I ripped all that stuff out. Yeah, dynamic rendering is much nicer to deal with, for sure. First time chatter, RigsCam, welcome. New here, could you give any insightful pointers into dev in general for a post-grad? I'm into tons of programs, just foggy where to start. Any words is good. Okay. It's a bit nebulous, right? So what I focus on this channel is mostly game dev stuff. So, a lot of stuff that I would have to offer is around that space. However, I do and have worked in other spaces before. So it really kind of depends on what you're wanting to get into. The thing I'll say there is, depending on what industry you're going to get into, figure out what tech stack, and sometimes it even varies by company. Figure out what tech stacks are common in that industry and learn those. And when I say learn those, I don't mean just read a book and say, oh, yeah, I learned it. No. I mean, actually write actual projects in those things. If you're wanting to get into game engine development, you need to write a game engine, right? If you're wanting to get into just the rendering aspect of that, you need to write a renderer. You need to learn, Vulkan, for example, and write libraries in there, right? But yeah, the answer is going to vary greatly depending on where you're going to go. Like for game development, I'm going to say C or C++, right? Unless you're using Unity, then it's C#. For embedded, you're probably going to want to use C or even assembly. For web, obviously, it's going to be JavaScript, right? So it really depends highly on what you're wanting to do. But whatever you do, look up what the tech stack is and learn that tech stack and get good at it. And the only way that you can really get good at it is through repetition, and reading up on it, and really doing your best to drill down as far as you possibly can to learn that thing, and write lots of code and throw out your code and then write it again. That's what I suggest on this channel all the time. Practice is key. Repetition is key. I tell people, for example, when they're learning Vulkan, the way to learn Vulkan is to read the Vulkan spec top to bottom, which is no small feat. Then write a renderer, and then when you get that renderer working, cool. Throw it out. Read the spec again. Once you've read the spec again, you'll probably have picked up many new things. Write another renderer about those new things. And then once you get it working, throw it out, repeat, right? So Vulkan is a rendering API. So that's just you can think of it as a rendering interface used for real-time graphics. So you may have heard of OpenGL or DirectX. Vulkan is kind of, it's not kind of. Vulkan is the successor to OpenGL. So it's just a way to interface with your graphics card in your machine in an abstract way, is the best way that I can describe it, right? And it's implemented by the GPU manufacturer within the driver, right? So it's an interface to keep you from having to write separate code for AMD versus Intel versus NVIDIA, right? Yeah, I hope that helps. Let's see. Practice makes things easier eventually. Vulkan requires one to write 4 engines and scrap them, then it becomes easy. Yeah, exactly. What's Kohi's number among all your attempts in making an engine? So all my attempts were making an engine in general, or all my attempts in making a Vulkan renderer / engine? Because those two numbers vary widely. So I wrote probably, I don't know if I did 10, but it's probably somewhere near 10. I would say at least 8 renderers before I actually tackled this one, in Vulkan, before I actually tackled this engine. In terms of engines in general, dozens. I've written and thrown out dozens of engines. But yeah, as far as Vulkan engines, this is probably the 5th that I've written. Yeah. But yeah, as far as like total game engines across all tech stacks and all rendering APIs and all that stuff, it's been dozens at this point. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. An engine is much more than just a renderer. Who boy is it? Yeah. In fact, most of your engine code is actually not rendering code. So, like, do I have clock installed? I don't. Give me a second. I'm going to install clock. Surprised I don't have it installed, actually. One moment. Okay. So if we take a look at, I should probably, so there's two there's two things we need to look at, right? So this is the game code. And, as far as the game code, we're looking at about 4,200 lines of code. Now, this is just the game, right? If we look at the actual engine itself, and we do the same thing again, we're sitting at right at 76,000 lines of code. Now, granted, a couple of these are not actual what you would call code, right? Some of this is GLSL. It's split out Objective-C in here. There are other files in here. I don't know what Kermit is. I'm thinking it's one of my kconfig files that it's actually calling that. That's really just text. So like we have, between Markdown and some of these others, there's, I don't know, maybe 2,500 lines of that, right? But everything else is actual code. So yeah, of that, my point there, of that, Vulkan backend, which is by far the largest file, is 5,000 lines. So when you put all that together, it's not a large portion, right? And a lot of this includes, there's a lot of comments in here too. So yeah, most of the logic isn't actually your renderer. Let's see. As a dev, what do you think about the stop killing games movement? Do you think about the end of life things for your games you're working on? Okay, so I'm going to keep this answer short because this is a whole thing. I could derail on this for an hour, but I'm not going to do that. I fully support it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I, even as a game dev, don't want to see the stuff that I've worked on in the past taken down because the publisher just decided to kill it for no reason, right? Devs in general, and I'm talking actual devs here, not publishers, right? Devs don't typically like seeing the work that they've poured hours upon hours upon hours of their blood, sweat, and tears into to get it out the door. They don't want to see that stuff shut down, right? They don't want to see that stuff killed. And so, I fully support the idea behind that. Does it need some work? Does it need some things added and some things changed? Maybe, right? But I think overall, it's a big step in the right direction, 100%. I wish I could have signed it, honestly. If I could have signed it, I would have. So that being said, do I think about the end of life things for my games that I'm working on? I do. So this game, for example, is going to be a single player game. This is not going to have any sort of online requirement whatsoever. The only thing that I might optionally hook into it is maybe Steam achievements, but that's not going to require that, right? So nothing that I'm going to make here is going to have some sort of online requirement. I think for a multiplayer game, it really depends, highly on the game itself, what the end of life looks like. I think if you're buying into an MMO, you reasonably expect that that's got like an end, an end of life date somewhere, right? It's got a shelf life, and I think it's reasonable to accept that. What I don't think is reasonable is a game like Diablo 3 that had to always be online, that was really just a single player game, unless you teamed up with a buddy, right? There's no reason that has to be online all the time, right? That's the kind of crap that I can't stand. When you've got essentially what is a single player game that has to be online, and then they decide, we don't want to support the servers anymore, so we're just going to shut it off, and then the single player doesn't work anymore. And I think that's a huge issue, right? Yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on it. I mean, I know I didn't go into like a lot of details, but yeah, it is something that I think about all the time. Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub, by the way. Thank you very much for that support. I appreciate that. What's up? How's it going? Good to see you. Let's see. I can't sign it too because I'm Brazilian. We have a few Brazilians in chat, actually. But yeah, that's my pain too. I would love to sign it, but I can't. because I'm in the US. To be honest, if it has online support, you can just, as end of life, support users who love the game to keep going. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it varies, again, on the design of the game, right? I do agree that, MMOs are a little bit harder to do that with. But something that I think is like multiplayer, there's no reason that you couldn't also have like a LAN mode, where you can hook up like, like you used to in the old school days, and just have peer-to-peer. Alucard for the with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much for that support. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. That's huge. I really appreciate that. You kicked off a hype train too. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Love your take. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a realistic take to have. I think all the people that are getting pissed about it are publishers, right? If I recall these online games, what they want is for games to let users make their own custom servers if the game dies. Yeah. And I think that's fine. I think some sort of reverse engineering is fine. I think here's where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because here is where Thor started to have a little bit of a point and then completely lost it. So there is an issue with a lot of software, especially when you use libraries. There's the issue of distribution, right? A lot of those things that are running the back end of these services may have some piece of software that is used that's licensed in such a way where they cannot redistribute it, right? They can only have it on their servers. It is not meant for public redistribution, and so they're not allowed to actually redistribute that thing. Now, my argument on that would be you shouldn't use that to begin with if that's the license, right? Just avoid that. But for existing games that have that already in place, there's not much you can do, right? It is what it is. But I think any new games should be designed in such a way where that's potentially possible. And I mean, I don't know, maybe stop using stuff with licenses that just don't allow you to redistribute it, write stuff in-house maybe. Yeah, there's tons of ways around that. So, I do agree with with the point of, existing infrastructure, existing titles and stuff won't be able to do that. And I think even stuff that is in development now, to be released in the next few years or whatever, shouldn't even have to necessarily do that, right? I think, there should be some sort of date that gives plenty of notice to anybody that wants to do this sort of thing. But the other thing here is that's not even really what the movement is asking people to do. It's asking, if you are setting up one of these, an MMO or some game like that is not going to be redistributable, that you clearly mark that on the package. That, this has an expiration date. You are buying a license to this. You are not buying, you're not actually buying the actual game itself. It's got a shelf life. And they just want that clearly printed on the package. And I think that's reasonable. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I could go on for that for like an hour. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that. Let's see. Let me catch up over here on the YouTube side. Multiplayer engines should be written in a way that once end of life, a simple localhost server edition can be given to players. That's not always possible, though. Yeah, it's not always possible, depending on how the architecture has been set up. Some things are just simply too large for that to happen. Let's see. After watching your tutorial recently, I was inspired to become a graphics programmer. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. What do you think of this career path? Is it too niche? Thank you so much for fantastic tutorials. So thank you for the feedback, by the way. Is it too niche? No, I don't think so, if you are really good. But be aware that it is a non-trivial thing to get into in terms of employment, right? You really have to be very, very, very top-notch. So if you're going to do it, go all in, jump in with both feet, and hit it hard. If you've got time to learn the stuff now, learn it as, spend as much time as you can learning it backwards and forwards. Reading graphics API specs and things like that, right? And of course, writing lots of code. That's the only way you're going to get really, really good at it, is to just write lots of code. So if you've got that time to do it now, do it now. Another thing that I have mentioned in the past is, if you're wanting to get into graphics programming, but you're not quite there yet and you need something more short term, you could always get into a company doing something adjacent to that, so semi-related, and then make the jump internally once something comes up, right? Programming tools or something for a game company. You could make the jump to graphics internally a lot easier than you could, from outside. But that, is different per company. So that advice varies. But yeah, it's not impossible, but it is not going to be easy. I will tell you that much. Write everything in C from scratch. Yeah, if they wrote everything in C from scratch, they wouldn't have any license issues, that's for sure. Let's see. The architecture to hold 10 to 50 players in MMO scales oftentimes, if not most, totally different. Yes, exactly. That's exactly my point, right? So if you're talking just an arena shooter, sure, you can run that easy, right? But yeah. MMOs are a completely different game, right? Literally and figuratively in terms of that. So yeah. Yamio, first time chat. Welcome, by the way. I should add, by the way, for those of you who have been subscribed or newly subscribed, I added a ton of emotes, actually. I think I've actually filled up almost all of my emote slots. So there's some new ones in there for you guys. If you haven't looked already. Okay. So, this is the Vulkan backend. Where were we? I think I wanted to go through and, oh, that's right. We had an issue. Where I don't think the reflection's happening correctly. But I want to run this again and find out. So I don't believe that the sunlight is being reflected, but I don't actually see, there's a couple things actually happening here. So we don't actually have transparency on our water, and I'm not seeing anything actually being rendered for the surface reflection. We should be seeing the skybox reflect, and we're not. And I suspect that might be maybe backwards somehow. Maybe the cube map's upside down or something like that. Because we should be able to see the reflection of this tree as well, and it's just not there. So I am wondering if we somehow hooked up the wrong camera or something. Let's actually take a look at this in RenderDoc. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. The hype train completed at level 2, by the way, so thank you again for that. I really appreciate the support there. All right. So let's go ahead and launch this guy. And we'll load up. And I'm actually going to switch to the debug camera view so I can get a little bit of reflectivity, or at least we should see some reflectivity, right? and we're not. So let's find out what that's all about. All right, so we have our forward pass. So if you recall, I should probably also visually show you guys how this wound up panning out, right? Because I added a whole bunch of markers in here. So if you recall before, what our forward pass sort of did was it looped through all the water planes we have in the scene, rendered a refraction render pass and a reflection render pass for each water plane. And then we have the standard pass at the end, right? So we have one water plane, we have water plane 0. So this is the refraction, this is the reflection. And it kind of looks to me like neither one is working correctly. Because the refraction should have, this should be semi-transparent. We should see the cube being refracted, the bottom of the cube being refracted here. So let's take a look at that. The first thing that we have here is we have the skybox, which I guess we don't really care too much about for the refraction. But the meshes is what we care more about. So I'm not going to worry about the tree, which is this one. I'm going to worry about these guys. And these are not drawing. So let's take a look at the pipeline state. Let's look at the... Let's take a look at the... All right, so the projection matrix looks okay. This is wrong, I can tell you right here. So, okay, so our views, this is essentially a pairing of views per refraction, right? So view index 0 is what's used for the, that's the view index used for the standard pass as well as the refraction passes, right? So this is actually, this one is correct. But the reflection pass is just a identity matrix, which is probably why that's not working. So that means that technically speaking, our refraction pass should be doing what it's supposed to be doing. So let's see, why else might it not be rendering? I don't think any of this stuff should stop it, but let's see, model matrix 304, scale of 1. No, that seems to be valid. Okay, so the model matrix seems to be valid. So I guess let me go back to texture VR, because I'm also not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything here that's getting drawn at all. So even if we do mesh viewer, right, we've got this VS in, but VS out says it should be up. Wait a minute. Okay, so the vertex shader isn't clipping it. That's what it's supposed to look like. This is in the right location as well. The tree is probably off somewhere in the background. So that is actually correct as far as the vertex shader is concerned. Interesting. Okay, so it's not the vertex shader. It's not any of our matrix transforms. Let's see. I've got some... Is it the first time... Is it the first time I'm here for a while? Yeah, it says first time chat for you in the chat. Have a question. I'm using Win32 overlapped with C++ coroutine. Should I manually buffer the read operation, or can I just read write a few bytes at a time? Overlapped. I'm trying to remember what that means. It's been so long since I've looked at Win32 code besides what I wrote here 4 years ago. I feel like you should just be able to write the data. Like, you should be able to just write it a few bytes at a time and it should be fine. I'm not 100% sure on that, to be honest. It's been so long since I've actually had to like look up how that stuff works. I don't remember. That's a beautiful render doc with all the debug colors. Mine is just render pass 1, 2, 3, 4. That's funny. Yeah, it was worth it though, because I can actually see how it breaks down, right? This is something I added not too long ago. Well, actually, it's probably been a year and a half or so since I added this, or maybe even longer at this point. But yeah, these debug markers are 100% worth it. Overlap is the old Win32 async IO API. Yeah, I don't remember. I totally don't remember. It's been too long. I know that anytime I have to do anything with that, I always have to look it up because I never committed it to memory. Okay, so if we have this, then why is this failing? Okay, so let's see if we didn't get that. Did we fail a depth test? No. Oh, wait a minute. There's no viewport scissor region. That could do it. Yep. There it is. Why didn't that get caught? You dingus. I thought I had logic in there to catch that. Without a scissor, it's not going to render jack. I literally have it right here. Oh, wait a minute. This is not the only place that can occur. It can also... because I don't think I removed it yet. Active viewport. This one. I'll bet it's here. I'll bet this is where it's happening and we're not setting the active viewport somewhere. And I can actually tell. I'm going to put a breakpoint right there and see if we actually hit that. Oh, you know what? This is going to poop itself because I don't have... does not like me having render doc open when I try to debug this. Okay. So this likely means that we're not setting it at all where we should be. So just to confirm this, let's see, vk command viewport, whoops, isn't it? Command set scissor, there we go. Let me go ahead and put this in here. And I really don't want to leave this in here, so I'm going to do a no check-in. Because I don't want this being checked every single time, right? Or maybe I could do like a debug. right? Maybe I'll do that. Or actually, do I not have k-assert debug? I'll just do this, actually. rect.width and rect.height. I'll just use an assertion instead, a debug assertion. That way, it still doesn't get hit. Sweet. So the only thing I can think of is that we are defaulting to that somewhere and we're just never actually setting it. Which has got to be there's not too many places where that happens. Oh, wrong front end. Renderer front end. Reapply dynamic states. That could be okay. So the only thing that I can think of is then in our renderer, before we actually go to draw the geo list, probably somewhere around here, or maybe even prepare frame might be the right place to do it. We're setting it for the shadow pass. I'll bet we're not doing it for, yeah, in world debug data. I'll bet we're not doing it here. Let's see. So it's going to have to be within a begin render. So I think probably right around, let's see, that's the debug label. Here's another debug label. There's another debug label. There's an end rendering. Where is the... World debug pass? Where is the one before that? It's got to be... It's got to be in here. Right here. Begin rendering. I wonder if we should do... Actually, I could probably just do... VP rect. I really don't want to do that. Let me take this. I'm going to try slamming this here. Actually, that's the skybox. That is rendering correctly. Oh, no, it's not, actually. Come to think of it. Okay, so that's the skybox, and then here is the prepare material, begin rendering here. So I think there. I'm not sure I've got that right still, but probably gonna have to render dock it again. Let's see. Do you work at the game industry or something else? I used to work at the game industry. I worked in the game industry for about 5 years, but then I got tired of the hours and lack of work-life balance. So yeah, I left a number of years back so that I could have something that was a little bit better balanced between the two. Okay. So this should do. I have a feeling that's probably still not enough to actually set it correctly, but I want to just see. Oh, in fact, I'm actually pretty sure that it's not correct. Okay, so is when we draw the skybox, begin rendering. Yeah, see, even the skybox isn't drawing. If I look at mesh viewer, like the skybox is there, right? Yeah, scissor is 0 again. Bummer. Okay, so it's got to be using that active. You know what? Okay, I was going to wait to take that out. I think I'm going to take it out now because it is just, it's causing more problems than it's worth. Oops, active. Wait, was it? Oh, wrong front end again. Active viewport sets. I'm just going to comment it out for right now. But God, I keep selecting the wrong one. There we go. Let's see, we have a get and a set for that. Okay. So this oh, that's not going to work because I have block comments already. Yay. Okay. And I'm going to no check in this as well. And let's see, we have the get here as well. So let's no check in that as well. That's obviously going to break some stuff, which is what I want. Debug render graph. Oh, I forgot to remove all the stupid render graph node stuff. Well, I guess I can't really remove that from the central code yet. How am I going to make this work? Okay. I think, you know what? I think what I'm going to do kill it anyways, because these are going to be going away, and I'm not going to be using them for the other projects. Once I get the bespoke renderer stuff carried over to those. Forward render graph node. There it is right there. Here's another one. And shadow render graph node. Editor gizmo. Renderer front end. Wait. Oh, UI render graph node. Okay. None of these matter anyways, because they're all going to be ripped out of here before too much longer. Really? Oh, okay. This is the Illumina render. Okay. So everywhere that we're doing that, we essentially need to swap it out with this logic. Oops. Okay, so how do I want to do this? Okay, so I guess I can go with let's see, rect2d vp rect equals renderer shadow pass vp rect. Okay, that's that one. Render data. So this is going to be world debug render data world debug data vp rect. What am I missing here? Oh, render data, not renderer data. Okay. Put another one here. This needs to be editor gizmo data. Looks like we got one more. SY data. All right. Let's see if that has any effect on it whatsoever, or if it just breaks a whole bunch of stuff. That should be fun. All right, it didn't break that, which is good. All right, it hasn't broken anything, but I don't know that it's fixed anything either. But maybe we'll get some answers. Taking a capture. All right, we'll go here into the refraction pass. I guess let's see if the skybox worked first, right? It did not. Okay, so did we have... We don't have a viewport scissor region again. But why? Still 0. Literally, where is that coming from? The viewport looks correct, but the scissor doesn't. Scissor does not look correct at all. Okay. I wonder if this is something that's automatically happening in the back end. That shouldn't be. I don't think so, but scissor set. I don't think I use scissor reset anywhere outside of the back end. The front end points to it, and only the back end calls it. Actually, the back end doesn't even call it. Front end points to it. Scissor reset. Do we actually have anything that's actually using that? I could probably get rid of it. Yeah, we don't have anything that's actually using that. Okay. So it's not that, which means awesome. That's the only thing in this entire code file that contains it. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of this guy. And that's obviously going to cause a problem here, but I'm just going to do a let's do a message. Don't do that, you dingus. Just so it compiles, right? Yeah, I don't even think that was used anyways. Okay. This is also using a vec4, which we actually have a rectangle type for now, so I should probably switch that as well. Oh, we got some other things here. Let's see. Hydrate, redeem, and a posture check. I appreciate that. Thank you. Have you or do you plan on supporting ray tracing? I don't think, I'm going to say this for now, I don't think I'm going to wind up supporting it right off the bat. Because I don't really foresee the game that I'm making needing it for anything. So what's the point in adding it, right? Because right now what I'm trying to do is basically only add stuff that we're actually going to need for the game. So short term, I'm going to say no. But long term, I do want to make a project that does support it. Yeah. Makes sense. Why did you decide to do an engine instead of using off-the-shelf one? It just felt like necessary for a specific game. A couple reasons. So the whole point of this project, let me pull something up real quick. So, and I'll just drop a link here in chat. So the whole point of this project is it's supposed to be like an educational stream, right? Like on a way to build a game engine. It's not designed to be the only way to build a game engine. It's not even necessarily always the right way to build a game engine. We do a lot of experimentation and looking into things and trying stuff on this channel, right? And we've had some great successes with things that we've tried, and we've had some things that we've been like, okay, cool, that works, but it's way too complicated. Let's get rid of it. So, you know, we try things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We do a deep dive into why those things are. But the purpose behind this is hopefully to motivate people to want to get into game engine development, to, I don't know, I guess create more competition in this space. You've got the big three out there, which is all well and good, right? But I think we need more competition in this space, because competition drives ingenuity, and I think in order for this tech to ever get pushed forward, we need more people doing it. So my purpose in doing this is severalfold. It's to motivate people to hopefully want to get into this industry and do this. It's also to show a way from the ground up how you might do it, right? So this is a resource that I certainly didn't have when I was learning how to do it. So this shows you complete from file new, like creating the Git repo and everything. Exactly all the steps that we take to get here. And it also shows all of the debugging, all the thought processes, the design decisions, all of those discussions along the way are had. And those are all things that I kind of wish that I had when I was learning how to do this stuff, because I would have found it invaluable for sure. And so there's that. And then there's also, I prefer to roll my own tech because I have all the control over it, right? I'm not beholden to, some other company to make an engine update for me, or I don't have to pick through millions of lines of Unreal code, something like that, right? I can write exactly what I need, only what I need, and build it from the ground up. And yes, it does take longer, but it's worth it when you actually get stuff up and running. And then also, the having something that you've built completely from scratch is I don't want to say bragging rights, right? But like, it's like, hey, look at this cool thing that I made, if my dingus self can do it, you guys can do it too, right? Because I'm no like end all be all expert on this stuff, right? So it's like, if I can do it, you guys can do it. So it's kind of like another motivational thing. And the idea here is we're going to take a game all the way to completion and shipping, right? We're going to release a game minimally on Steam, hopefully other platforms as well. But yeah, that's kind of why we do it, right? So there's this website here is kind of the portal for all that stuff, engine information and all that stuff, right? It's supposed to be just kind of a learning resource. So the engine itself is always going to be open source and free. It's Apache 2.0 license, which means you can use it for whatever you want, commercial or personal, it does not matter. Just all I ask is that you say you used it. And this stuff will never be paywalled. That's the other thing is, the engine itself will never be paywalled. It'll never have royalties or licensing fees of any kind, because I think this stuff should be free. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So if we don't have, if scissor reset isn't being called, let's go ahead and just look for, let's see, config scissor. I don't think that's going to be an issue. This is just the original scissor when we create the pipeline. Yeah, and we're already back to where we were before. So I don't think from here. Let's see, reapply dynamic state. Dynamic state scissor. Render dynamic state. I wonder if that is also part of the problem. If nothing actually updates this dynamic state scissor, right, we kind of set it here, default dynamic state. And then we set it anytime here. Let me also set it in the back end. But what are we doing with Reapply dynamic state. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Building game engines is fun. Yes, it actually is. I know it sometimes doesn't look like it when I'm like 30 levels deep in debugging stuff, but I promise it is. It's usually just me thinking, right? Begin rendering. So we reapply the dynamic state here every time. I don't see how this is actually getting 0 scissor. We know it's not the standard UI. We know it's not the editor, Gizmo data, or the debug. We know all of those work correctly. Right? We know for a fact that those are correct. For data VP rect. I wonder if it's this. The fact that we're actually passing through the VP rect there. See, and then we're doing this here. But I think that is actually too soon. So we need one here. Basically, anywhere we have a begin rendering, we need one of these. There's one there. I think we actually literally have one after every single one now. It might also need to be done. Oh, you know what? It's going to have to be done anytime we switch shaders too. Okay. This might be something we have to figure out on tomorrow night's stream, because I'm kind of nearing the end of the stream time if I don't figure out here in a couple minutes. Oh, that's not going to work because render dock taking up all my GPU memory. I guess I'll just run it from here. It's fine. Didn't realize you streamed. I've been sort of following the YouTube playlist off and on for a bit. Yep. Yeah, so we actually, it started as a YouTube tutorial series, but that kind of fell off because this doesn't really make sense as a tutorial after a certain point, right? Engines are just too big to do that with after a certain point. So we switched to streaming format. I want to say it was around episode 100, but I think it might have been even before that. But yeah, we switched to a streaming format, and ultimately, you know, that's just kind of where we stayed ever since. Is RenderDoc like not doing? It's not doing the thing. Yeah, RenderDoc died. Cool. Let's try that again. All right, former settings. Okay. So I want to switch cameras, get near this, take a capture, quit. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. First time chatter, Yunobo, how's it going? Welcome. Hope you're doing well. We're sort of in full debug mode here at the moment. So I think the reason our water looks so strange is because we're just not rendering things at all. And for some reason, yeah, our scissor is still set to 0. And so that's just going to completely make all this stuff not render. I'll bet it's true here too. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to have to figure out where that's coming from. I'm assuming... Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head where that's coming from. So we'll have to actually figure that out and get it in for next stream. What I'm going to do for right now, though, I do have some no check-ins. So I'm probably going to... I don't think I've got actually that much. Most of this is just me commenting code out. So I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm not going to push this code tonight. We'll continue working on it on tomorrow's stream, and once we fix the issue, we'll push it then. All right. Because I've got a few of those no check-ins. I'm great. It's cool how you're making this in C. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, it's the whole project's in C. So it's been an interesting experiment for sure. But I can't see myself going to C++ at this point. Not this far in, that's for sure. I'm really quite enjoying writing the whole thing in C. It's been kind of an awesome experience, honestly. Okay, so yeah, we got like 5 minutes left. So I think probably what I'm going to do is probably just going to end a couple minutes early and look for somebody to raid, and then we'll pick up tomorrow night. So while I am looking for somebody to raid, I would encourage you guys, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate a follow/subscription over on the YouTube side. If you haven't already, or if you're so inclined, both. I'm trying to reach more people to hopefully, kind of convince people that, we need some help here in the game engine development, circles, and we could really use it, right? We could use more people. We could use more ingenuity and inventiveness from new people coming in, and I think that that's a really valuable thing. So, I'm just looking for somebody to raid. I think I see who I'm going to raid, actually. Let me just finish scrolling through the list, and then... Okay, yeah. We are going to raid... We are going to raid Z.A. Shaw. So it looks like he is making a tiny roguelike. So we're going to see what he's up to. I know he does all kinds of stuff on stream. He writes some C code every once in a while too. It doesn't look like he's writing C tonight. I think he's writing something else. I can't tell quite what it is in the preview, but yeah, we'll see what he's up to. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the chats tonight, all the new folks. Really appreciate the support via the subs. Thank you again so much for that. That means a ton to me. I really appreciate it. So, but yeah, we're going to catch you guys on the next one. I'll see you guys later.